Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Brian Price. I'm the author of Crime Writing, How to Write the Science, and this is a guide to the scientific aspects of crime for crime writers and crime readers. I also run a website and offer advice to crime writers on a personal basis on scientific aspects of their work. In this series of videos, I'll be discussing some of the topics covered by the book, such as poisons, explosions, knocking people out, body disposal, and so on. But for this first introductory one, I thought it might be interesting to look at some of the queries I've dealt with as an advisor. So first up, if you pour sulfuric acid on somebody, will it smell like burning? Well, you'll get acid burns, but you won't get the smell of a fire or a barbecue. You will get a smell, but it won't be quite the same. Can you tell whether a limb has been severed before or after death? Yes, you can. If a limb is severed from a living person, the tissues show what's called vital reactions, which are reasonably easy to detect at post-mortem. You don't get these vital reactions if the person is already dead. Can you separate DNA samples from different people from a mixture? Yes, you can, as long as one isn't completely swamped by another one. If it's just two samples, it's reasonably straightforward to do. If there's more than two, then it can be more complicated, and the more people there are there, the more difficult it is to do. Can a drum of diesel explode if hit by a high-velocity bullet? Well, no, not on its own. You need what's called an oxidizing agent to convert the diesel into an explosive, and in mining and sadly in terrorism, the oxidizing agent usually used is the fertilizer ammonium nitrate. Now that mixture, if hit by a very high velocity round, may well explode, but a drum of diesel on its own won't, and don't be misled by Hollywood pictures of diesel exploding when a bullet hits it. Can you knock someone out with a ketamine injection? Well, you can, but they're not going to sit around waiting for you to find a vein while you inject them. But if they're incapacitated in some way, such as having been knocked off their bike and are dazed and confused, you could slip a needle into a vein, bundle them into the back of a van, and job done. Could you poison somebody with deadly nightshade berries in a fruit pie? Yes, this is possible, because deadly nightshade berries could resemble small fruits, but you'd need to add an awful lot of sugar to the pie, because berries of the deadly nightshade and the tissues of many other poisonous plants are extremely bitter, so they need a lot of heavy disguising. What's the turnaround time for a DNA sample? Well, in the UK, 24 hours is regarded as a fast track service. There is a van the Forensic Science Service has which will go around and collect samples, and you can get a result in about 7 hours. There is a technology around which will give you a result in under an hour, but it wouldn't be good enough to stand up in court, but could be quite useful in a police station, for instance, for identifying a suspect who could be held for further inquiries. Where would you hide bodies in an old house? Well, an old house is an ideal place in some ways to hide a body. You can take up the floorboards, for instance, which is a lot easier to do than to rip up sheet flooring or dig up a concrete floor in a modern house. So that's one possible location. Behind a false wall is another. The Rillington Place murderer, John Christie, hid a body behind a false wall, and that was only discovered when a subsequent tenant tried to put up a bookshelf. There's the roof space, or the attic too, where a body could be concealed, and you could even leave one on the roof and let nature, wildlife and what have you take its course and skeletonize the body like a sky burial, and this has been used by an author relatively recently. Don't forget, however, that a decomposing body will smell dreadful, and if it's in warm, dry, aerated conditions, that may not happen because the body could mummify, just dry out, much less offensive than a decomposing corpse in normal conditions, which exudes liquids and smells dreadful. So if you've got several bodies in the same place, someone's likely to notice the smell. Could you have a delayed fire or explosion in a houseboat which might look like an accident? Well, the answer I came up with was to have a candle burning at one end of the boat, you turn the gas on at the other, and leave pretty smartish before the gas reaches the flame. If someone's found on a patio, Can you tell whether they were pushed out of a window or whether they just tripped and fell accidentally? You can if they were given a hearty shove in the back, because that would leave bruising that would appear sometime later. Obviously, if they landed on the back and the damage would have obscured the bruising, then you wouldn't find anything at post-mortem, and obviously you'd need to have some suspicion to look for it anyway. So that's a flavour of some of the queries I've looked at. I hope it's whetted your appetite and that you'll look at the website and even look at the book. Thank you for watching.